welcome to today's meetup. We have a very special meetup in store for you guys today for you JETvarnish operators. Today we're going to be talking with Ken about labels. I think, a lot of people are talking about how labels is really growing. I think embellishment is a very, very strong foothold. It's a mature market for labels, but we're really looking forward to today's discussion. Thank you for our friends at MGI for putting this on. Ken, how you doing today, buddy?
Great, Kevin. How are you? Good morning.
I'm doing good. Not too early in Arizona for you?
It's already close to 100, so that's not too early.
You're not stuck in that heat wave, are you? No, I don't think it's that's just par for the course for Arizona.
Yeah, it's pretty ordinary for Arizona, but now it wakes you up quick and ready to get started.
That's funny. So, Ken, we talk a little bit about labels. We talk about the need for embellishment, especially on a store shelf. When we talk about that, when you ran your JETvarnish, did you ever end up running labels, like cut and stack labels? Because I know you didn't have a roll to roll, but was that something that you guys did from time to time?
Yeah, we did quite a bit of labels. They come in handy on a lot of test runs and a lot of prototyping. They come in handy on, people don't really want to invest in a carton run yet or a packaging run. So even something as simple as a business card box, right? What a perfect opportunity for anybody with an MGI or a Cura sign to put a label on the business card box, maybe of the actual business card itself, and you just embellish one on one label.
That's
And
cool.
put it on a box, so when people see it, they open it up, they pull out their business card, and they will wonder why it doesn't look like the
That's
cool
awesome.
looking label you put on the box. So it can be a self-marketing piece as well. But it did put some interesting challenges. So I was kind of glad that we decided to bring this up this month. But the initial thing that comes to mind when we talk labels is being able to label the box that you're putting ordinary print in, and showing them what the product could have looked like inside the box had they gone and embellished the whole run. So
Funny you're saying that, because Matt Redbear, when I ran my business cards with Blue Ocean Press, where it was before, he did that for me. He did exactly what you said, where he actually printed labels of my business card and embellished them and actually put them directly on the box, which I thought was kind of a really cool idea. Now, there's a lot of, I guess, technical differences when you're running adhesive stock versus running just regular stock. What were some of the tips and tricks that you kind of figured out when running some of that adhesive stuff on your machines? Was there anything that kind of stood out to you on how to get the best quality or the best ease of operation?
yeah, the substrate itself ends up being where the most challenge is. What they love to do to you is somebody needs a small label run. So let's go grab this product that's been sitting in the warehouse that's in a 20 by B2 size, right?
Right.
It's big, and you're going to cut it down to 1925 or 1218 or 19, 1319, 1218. And they don't take any care, and they just cut it right through with the guillotine cutter, and you end up with a bunch of adhesive on the edges, and it starts to prevent the sheets stick together. Good morning.
Hey, what's up, Sean?
Sorry, I was having a little bit of technical difficulties connecting earlier.
No
Sorry,
worries.
Sorry to interrupt you, Ken.
no problem. So again, getting the stock in and taking proper care of it is huge. So don't take that stock that's been sitting in the warehouse, if at all possible. Don't figure on it. It's already tight. Remember, you're dealing with not only paper, but you're dealing with adhesive, you're dealing with backing. And as soon as you drop a cutting blade into it, it starts to curl on the edges and get super, super tight. And it also spreads adhesive.
Interesting.
So if you can order it in the size that you're going to run, that's a huge, because it's properly cut at the factory. And then you got to take a look at the backer. I mean, people don't even think of the backer. You can get crack and peel, which is really convenient for the end user if they're going to apply labels to a small amount of product. But the crack and peel, if you pull it down on a suction belt like the MGI has and the Cura sign has, you're going to pull. You could very well pull those dents permanently into the label itself. You can go ahead and release that pressure a little bit, and you can get by with it. So don't be afraid of it, but just be aware that it could be an issue. The other real big problem comes into cutting, which we can talk a little bit about. Now you're talking about not being able to put it through a slitter or a cutter. You
Right.
could potentially put it through a cutting table. You could cut shapes, but you're going to have to be careful because, again, that adhesive is such a challenge. A lot of the manufacturers, I know MacTac and I talked to MDX this week, and they're doing some great things with the adhesive as well to try and make that a non-issue. But anytime you slice through those things, it ends up being not only a printing issue, but then you're adding heat at the toner devices, and then you're putting it through the jet varnish and cutting it. It's been heated a couple of times, so it tends to spread. It tends to come out on the edges. It's really about what it picks up and how difficult it is to work with. You got a little bit of a suction job on your embellishment machines, and when you pick that stuff up, you can't pick up two. You can't do that. A lot of it's already thick. You're adding a base layer, adhesive, and a product to it. You could be above 18 point real quick, so you have to be careful of that too.
Interesting.
So it's really about focusing on what material are we going to use? Is there a better option? And do I need to talk to my paper supplier about what products are going to be best for doing this?
So let's talk the crack and peel here for a second. If you guys have questions, please, Sean, Paul, Marco, jump in and ask. I had a question with the crack and peel. With the pressure of the foil roller coming down, did you ever run into issues of the adhesive kind of popping back up and sticking to the foil through that crack and peel, the line where the kiss cut is, or is that something that you haven't really seen when you ran?
I didn't, because most of the foils that I started to use more currently were running at a much lower temperature. Konica's got a foil now that runs at 100 degrees. So
Yeah.
that's really forgiving on the heat. But I also was super anal about checking my roller pressures and making sure they were from front to back, they were even. I was insanely obsessive about every run, dropping that roller when it was warm, checking that pressure on both the back of the machine, the front of the machine, and the middle. And I think as long as you pay a lot of attention to that and focus on those issues, they probably will be a non-issue.
Interesting. How about Sean, Paul? Do you guys have any, or even Ken as well? What kind of cut and stack? This means not roll to roll, but sheets of labels. Have we identified any that works exquisitely with the jet varnish technology? Is there some that kind of pop out to you, or have you not really had any issues on using any of them? Sean.
I'll chime in there in terms of what we see regionally here, in the U.S. A variety of stocks, whether it's Fasten, whether it's MacTac, whether it's Avery, all make products that are very receptive to the spot UV. It comes down to, similarly, whether it was even if it's outside the realm of labels, the surface tension, right, and the porosity of that surface is probably what's most impactful. While Ken's talking about some of the crack and peels, my experience on some of the big brand, crack and peels, like the ones that you might just be able to go as a consumer to your local office supply store and buy in packs of 100. By the way, not the most cost-effective way to do it. Contact your paper supplier; they'll give you bulk and the sheet sizes you need. Right? Ken knows this. But for very short runs, people do it. And but the porosity of those types of white bleach papers, probably are going to have a tiny bit more absorption. Now, you do have, your liner and you do have your adhesive, so you're not going to see, I don't think, full penetration bleed through like you would if you were just on a plain paper stock. But certainly things like polypropylenes, BOPPs, PVCs, any of the synthetics are going to have that spot UV stand really high and proud, and you're going to have really good drop control. So really long-winded way of saying, like, all of the major players out there are going to make some very receptive product. I would just, like everything else, test, right? So if you're going to introduce a new label stock that you haven't run today, you're going to get a sample. They're all going to give you free samples of, a handful of sheets, and you're going to put it through, and you're going to throw, 30 or 75 micron, whatever you want to do. You're going to put some spot UV down on that, put some foil down on that, and make sure that that it has the spread that you need with the amount of drop position control. But I would say, in large,
point, Sean. I mean, go to your commercial paper suppliers. They're used to supplying to the commercial print industry, and make sure that they're coated appropriately, because what they're doing to those substrates to make them printable for a lot of different technologies ends up saving you a lot of headaches. The other thing that brought to mind as you talked about that is one of the things that we made a big practice of doing is if we had a common size that we're always running into, we would literally buy a good product that we know tested well, and we would kiss cut it ourselves. So you ended up with a shelf full of kiss cut labels that you kept nice and tight on the shelf, maybe even shrink wrapped. and in lifts of 100 and put it on a shelf. And anytime you pull that out to do a short label run, like I talked earlier about putting a business card label on top of the business card box that's embellished. Keep those were handy. Those were easy to template for pre-press. They knew the spacing, right? Because a lot of those labels get so small. And I noticed a lot of the Avery products, especially, sometimes the spacing isn't quite what you think it is.
Right.
And with the embellishing equipment, you do not want to get any varnish anywhere near the edges that you're going to kiss cut, or you're going to cut, period. Because now you're going to be fighting adhesive and you're going to be fighting varnish and foil issues. So keep it within your cut, if at all possible. And no, again, your advice was awesome. Test, super important.
So
the testing is always important, because the older, that Lecta now owns the Yak and also the Fason.
Yeah.
So before, when they were separated, individual, I had to print that braille that I did, I
the braille
about it. Yeah, on the transparent, basically PVC or what it was. It was good. When the Lecta took over, basically the quality, especially of the back paper, I'm talking only for the JETvarnish. The printing in the PP machines was excellent, but the capabilities in the JETvarnish machines, I had a lot of problems with a few jobs with that braille letter. So you need to be aware of the heating, especially on the big machines, on Evos and 3DLs, because of the
infrared
mercury UV lamp. Yeah, it creates a large amount of heat, so you will have a curling of the paper, of the backing. Yeah, and this was the biggest issue. And basically, I did it almost sheet by sheet, because if you run it with 1 second on a big machine, with 1 second of the space between the sheets, basically you can throw out, when you have the jam, you can throw out 3, 4, 5 maybe sheets to garbage, because they have varnish on it, but it didn't cure completely, and then you need to throw them out.
Interesting.
So this is, just test. As Ken said, always you need to test. Small machines are a little better regarding the heat because of the LED second lamp, but the big ones are heat. It's major problem.
That's a really good point, and I think if we look at the advantage, then I suppose, of something like the JETvarnish being able to add that margin spacing, again, because we're talking about incorporating, labels with embellishment, it's something that when we get up to the estimating side, right? We just want to make sure that the business owners, the production managers are aware of, perhaps we're going to reduce our throughput to add a little bit more margin spacing to keep things cool, right? We have to remember too, labels. Everybody needs labels. Anytime there's packaging out there, you were just talking, Ken, about the business card with the label outside on the business card box. Anybody that has a product to sell needs labels. So it is a great, business venture if people aren't in it already. And of course, as the industry statistics point out, adding embellishment to that only, helps you realize, higher gains and higher value. So certainly, yes, that's the downside. You may need to reduce the throughput a little bit to keep that operation consistent. And it's a great point, Marco. Just, it's probably better to reduce running speed by some margin and not have wasted sheets, right? Not have, because that's raw material that you bought, and so you have to do that analysis based upon the run length. But great point.
So for operators, they probably need to keep in mind, if they don't know this because they don't necessarily buy the product, it can be 3 or 4 times more expensive to run a label than an actual piece of paper. Yeah. So if you can get some printed sheets from the run on regular paper, set up on the regular paper, do your testing and your stretching and your skewing or whatever you want to do on that, and try to not waste that label, because it's quite a bit more expensive. And the other thing that came to mind when Marco was talking too is all these label companies use a different type of adhesive. If you can use a removable adhesive and it's effective for the product, a lot of stuff doesn't need to be there forever. It just needs to be on a carton for a limited period of time. The removable adhesives are far more forgiving, especially if you're going to guillotine cut.
Interesting.
It doesn't spread like a permanent adhesive. And when I say permanent, they mean it. I mean, it's tough stuff. And it also impacts what you said earlier, Kevin, roller pressure that permanent adhesive is reactive.
Wow.
It's just waiting to grab onto something. So if you can use removable, or everybody's permanent adhesive is a little bit different. So don't be afraid to change brands on the exact same sheet and do a little bit of testing on that too. Because I've run some things through a slitting machine, a smart slitter, and had okay luck because it wasn't permanent. And the slitting wheels didn't get too bad. You get in there and wipe them once, and you can get through most of a run. Even the die cutters, if you stamp those, if you get a pre-cut shells, a pre-kiss cut, they don't really like that either. You got a die that's often sitting on a hot platen, and it comes down. Those cutting rules are warm. It can cause them some problems too. So you have to almost think down the line about what the use is going to be and who's going to be touching it.
I want to make sure I go back to an important point that you had mentioned a minute ago, Ken, and it goes back to the pre-cuts, right? Or when you, again, I'll use my analogy. If you everybody can go to the consumer store and they can buy, A4 size, pre-cut, let's say, 3-inch by 4-inch, boom, 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 6 up kind of thing. Avoiding, you made the point, you said, be aware of not bridging over that pre-cut area, right? Because then you're fighting not only the pre-cut but also the varnish or the foil. That's a really important point. I think many people that are proficient with embellishment understand dithering out the varnish or the foil as you get close to where that die cut's going to go. Sure. They take this pre-cut thing with the label that's already face cut, kiss cut on the top, and they may think, oh, I can just flood it with varnish, easy. No, you don't want to do that. It's never going to crack open.
Right. So you need to take, it's going to fall into that crack and become one.
Yeah. So you need to take that same level of precaution and just, dither out at that edge. That's the advantage of having, scan technology on there so that you have precise registration and you can get right to the edge of that label. But making sure you don't bridge that kiss cut is really important.
And Ken, did you usually dither, or did you just leave a little bit of a margin around the edge? What was your?
I tried to get Prepress to do it for me, but if I had to, I would just go into the editor. I would grab one, I would reduce it by a couple of pixels, or you just shrink it, pull it in a little bit, and then just do a quick step and repeat on every other label that was on the sheet. Yeah. If it was only 4 up, it was easy. You could just drop it the same amount. So you're not, as an operator, you're not hung out to dry if you do bleed over, or your label stocks are not. They're supposed to be 4 1/8, and they're really 4 1/16. Just go ahead and grab one, shrink it a little bit, center it, boom, you're done.
So I have a question around second pass. So if you are running cut and stack labels, multiple passes, is there anything that we need to be aware of? I mean, I'm coming back to Marco, your point specifically regarding if I'm running on synthetics, the heat might really re-affect the sizing and the actual material itself. What are some of the things that we need to be careful of as operators out there when running multiple pass on label or synthetic materials?
Well, fortunately, you're going to do foil first. Oh, I'm sorry, you addressed Marco?
No, I just wanted to say about the sizing. It doesn't stretch so much in the sizing. The problem for me was the curving of the sheet because of the heat.
Oh, the curling.
Down there you have the paper. Down there you have the paper backing, and then you have the polymer up there on top of it. Between it's the glue, and after the heating, after the higher heat, it plastic start to bend a little. The feeding issue and the issue transport between the belts, because the big machines have more belts than the 3DS or a Kuryoshine. A Kuryoshine, basically you have one gray belt and this is everything. But on big machines, you have margin table belt, then you have the printing belt, then you have the belts for the transport in the dryer unit, and then after that you have also the 2 belts in the IFOL unit. So basically you need to transport that piece of paper, piece of material through almost 10 meters of the machine,
Yeah.
And this can be the tricky point.
I could add to that, though. I had some decent luck if I ran small lifts, put them through once, and while they were still warm. They look curly, but as long as they're still warm, they are somewhat pliable. Oh. So if you can run 100 sheets and quickly run that 100 sheets again, don't wait till your 1,000 run is done. Sometimes the curl is way more scary than it actually turns out to be. I get more nervous about bubbling or popping of the tightness of the sheet. But if you keep it warm and you think about that, yeah, I mean, that's a really good point for even coming off of of your KM machine is print it and try and get it into the jet varnish as quickly as you can. You're already working with warm adhesive, and you'd be able to get it through. Probably actual paper, when it's that curled, is going to be more difficult than it is with warm adhesive. It may actually pull down, and if you guide it in with a couple of straps and keep it flat against that vacuum belt, you'll be able to get it back through again.
Well, I think it's interesting because, and again, maybe Sean and Paul, you guys want to talk about this, but the reason I ask is because MGI just came out with a new Web 400 press, and what's kind of cool about it, it's unlike anything we've seen, Ken, in the industry, where they have two engines basically, and the engines are spraying down like a different type of varnish one from the other. One sticks to foil and one repels foil. So that means in one single pass,
I like that. I like
one single pass, you can have both varnish tactile and foil tactile, and the foil will only stick to where it's supposed to stick. So they don't have to run. Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's the new area of the embellishment now.
Yeah.
So thanks to that, we are able to apply varnish and foil in the same pass. So one pass, even you have varnish and foil mixed, you will have the both effects. But going back to your question, Kevin, what I can add, sometimes we have two foil colors. And considering this scenario, you will need to do two passes. Right. So the first pass will be for the first color of foil and the varnish, and the second pass will be the second color of foil.
Right.
And for that, and for the previous generation of MGI technology, digital embellishment technology, with our scanner, we have run a few jobs with customer at the showroom, and we have faced one issue. Sometimes when we are embedding different color of foil, it can change too much the label, and at the end during the second registration process,
doesn't recognize it.
Yeah, definitely. So sometimes we have to make some extra adjustment on the scanner in order to let the scanner not take in consideration a part of the label.
Do you get this, Ken? Do you understand what's happening?
Sometimes, yes.
On the second,
like high in coverage, foil in coverage, this can have an impact on the registration. Yeah.
So basically, we're saying the foil almost acts as an ink, meaning that on the second pass, yes, the foil is thrown off the scanner because it doesn't recognize the design because the first pass. The foil. So would you say like a good tip there, I could be wrong, is if you have, let's say, two different foil files for the same file, run the most complicated one last and the simplest one first?
Yeah, definitely, yes. But it's not an issue at all because we have run like a job with 4 passes of foil. It is not an issue. The only needs is to readjust the scanner, not take into consideration. So we just switch from scanner modes. So the first will be like a classic registration process. Then we will take only the sheet registration. So it's not an issue, but sometimes it can appear. And to jump again on a 2 passes process, an issue that we can have sometimes when we have like a glue on back of the sheet, it can create like a curvy effect after a few passes. So this has to be taken in consideration as well.
Interesting. Yeah. So, all right, guys, I've printed my labels. I've embellished them 1 or 2 or 14 passes. What do I need to be careful from here on out? Like let's talk about drying them and shipping them. Is there anything that I need to be aware of specifically when it comes to the label stock compared to what I traditionally do on my paper stock? Is there anything that you guys recommend we keep an eye out for those of us who are out there trying this stuff?
I don't really have any special requirements for the drying. Obviously, if you're storing your sheets on end when they come out, the same applies.
So you're putting them vertical on the rack. You're doing the whole
on the rack, because if all they have to be is cut after that, I mean, a little bit of curl is probably okay. That's where another one of those crack and peel type situations too, where if your lifts get too high or your varnish is too high, it can be a blessing because the liners won't pick up the embossing when you actually apply a little bit of pressure to the sheet. But you're looking at putting an NCR pad on the bottom of a clamp for sure, and praying that when you cut it, the lines from the crack and peel don't push through the finished product. So you got to be really gentle with it. And if the customer does not ask for crack and peel, don't use it.
Right.
Because
Right.
it's more consistent for the cut, and it's probably gonna be a lot more forgiving. But again, you can get away with, you run something on a 100-pound text or a 80-pound cover, and you guillotine cut 100 sheets, you could end up with a little bit of embossing that nobody notices, but you probably notice it as an expert operator. But yeah, the liner can actually help with that. You can get away with a little bit more.
Yeah, very
Well,
interesting.
sorry, go ahead, Paul.
Sorry, what I can add about post printing process. Sometimes when you are producing on the JETvarnish 3D web, if you apply too much varnish, sometimes on a specific area, when you are
Rolling.
rewinding, sorry, the web, sometimes you have to adjust, and this is an issue that we face sometimes in the showroom during our demonstration. We have to adapt the web tension, because if the web tension is too strong, it can crush a bit the varnish. So what we usually do, we decrease the web tension in order to let a smoother rewinder of the web, and not to crunch or to impact the embellishment effects. So this has to be taken in consideration when you are over like a 60, 70 micron thickness on a specific area.
And that's so glad you both have said exactly what I wanted to mention, which is two things. Don't load up 1,000 sheets, run them all 1,000 sheets, stack them all out in a pallet feeder, a pallet stacker on the end of the machine, and think that they're not going to have some level of bricking. Not that would be, potentially the embellishment to the bottom of the liner matrix, but even within the adhesive itself, the pressure from that amount of sheets combined with the heat is probably, as Ken mentioned, you're going to make the adhesive more malleable, pliable, and it's going to resolidify as it cools. It's going to cool as a brick. So don't do that. You're going to take smaller lifts. You're going to let them come back to ambient temperature in the vertical, right? So you're going to stack them vertically and upright to ensure that there's no downward force or pressure on the face there. And a lot of it is going to depend upon the varnish thickness. If you're putting down 7 or 12 microns versus 75 microns, 75 microns is going to have a higher relief. You're going to want to have smaller lifts and just handle a little bit more gingerly, right? It's probably the most important things, I think, as you get into how you treat your sheets right after embellishment.
Interesting.
Great point, Sean. And for the operators out there, also remember, you used to maybe 1-inch piles and you think that that's okay, but now every piece of label stock is like 2 pieces of paper plus adhesive. Your weight is going to increase, like you said, really quickly, and could cause you some problems. You might want to think about smaller lifts.
Yeah.
For that reason.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Interesting. All right, guys. By the way, Sean, Paul, what's the first feedback on the Web 400? What is how are we going on the launch on that? Is that being well received in the market?
Definitely, yes. We have a first installation in Turkey now.
Congrats.
We are now finalizing the installments, and we are already launching the technology. Next week we'll have the creative experience in Carrières-sur-Seine, which is the headquarters of Konica Minolta France, and we will receive around 250 customers during 3 days next week. So I'm pretty excited to have this and to launch again this technology.
That's fantastic, Paul. Great to hear that. I think in the US we have the Web 400 installed in Konica Minolta's Ramsey, New Jersey headquarters. We've had several VIP events this year. Next one coming up in September that has been very well received. The customers around that. The beautiful thing, I think, the most overarching piece of feedback that I've had regarding the Web 400 is that its modularity, its modular nature is really important. So there are inline flexo units that can be put on it. There's inline semi-rotary die cutting that could be put on it. There's as we mentioned, the multiple print stations, but even if somebody was just starting with only putting varnish and no foil on a web system, they can have just one print station. So it allows to have a lot of modularity in terms of fitting the customer's needs. So that's been the piece that I have heard from the market, is that it really allows them to be a little bit more bespoke with their production environment, adding as they build their embellishment business.
I know we're building our KM Kicker hot sauce together with Konica.
Yeah.
So we're really looking forward. We saw some initial tests that you guys ran, and the quality was just absolutely beautiful. So I can't tell you how how much I'm looking forward to you guys really launching that here in the US. And I think labels is the next big frontier. You look at labels, guys, let's be honest. I don't know many label printers who don't do some sort of embellishment today, right?
There is no.
It's like the most mature market you could think of when it comes to embellishments. Hi, welcome.
Sean, where can we find more information on that? I'd love to read about what that web machine can do.
Oh, absolutely. Well, right from our Konica Minolta industrial print website, somebody just searches up, Konica Minolta industrial print in the United States. It goes through our entire embellishment portfolio, including, the Acurio Shine 3600, our jet varnish products, including the sheet fed and web, and our flagship, even our Alpha Jet product, which we didn't go down the I don't say rabbit hole, but didn't get too deep in on this call, but is similarly has the same single pass technology with two different types of varnish for a foil and a spot UV, all in line in one pass, right? And it's the only sheet fed type of product like that out there in the world with printing and embellishment. So anyway, all that available from our Konica Minolta Industrial Print website. Just search up Konica Minolta Industrial Print, or even just KM Embellishment. It's the first result in a Google search. Yeah, all available there for sure.
Very nice, very nice. And is this are you coming from us from Singapore, ma'am?
No, I'm coming from Malaysia.
Oh, Malaysia, very nice. It's what is your name?
I'm Mason.
Mason, it's a pleasure to meet you. Welcome to the operator meetup here at the JETfornish.
Did you come to ask any specific question? We'd love to help if you got anything you'd like to talk to us about.
Actually, I'm first joined. Actually, I would like to know more about what is talking about meetup in your whole, program. So just avoid me to asking a question.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, we just talked about that labels today, and how to run labels on JETvarnish technology. And then Sean and Paul gave us a really nice breakdown on some of the new technology with the Web 400 that's coming out, and the stuff that we can do on that we would never really be able to do on sheet fed. So, so very good. All right, guys. Well, listen, what else do you think operators should know about before we call this a day? I think it's been really informative from my side. Any other piece of wisdom that you would like to share with somebody who's done this stuff, cut and stack labels or web labels that you think we should tell the operators out there?
Yeah, on the sheet fed machines, if you use Corona, especially on the plastic materials, PVC or any other label materials, be gentle with the Corona treatment, because of the static electricity will be so much higher than on a standard materials, paper materials. So maybe in the stacker you will have a lot of problems regarding this. Be gentle. Always use Corona as low as on the lowest setting as what you need. Go maybe 2 or 3% up for the sake of motion, but use it as low as you need, and that static labels. Okay, they have the backing, but it was gloss one, and it was so gloss that it was basically acting like a reflector.
Oh,
you know.
Oh.
And as our machines are using sensors, on a reflective base, so you cannot use any material that has a big reflection back, because
we have launched a new generation of scanner with a coaxial lamp in order to avoid reflection or to. I don't know.
I know that, but I'm talking, Paul, only about the sensors on the machine. Top cell sensors and the sensors on top cells on LED 2 lamp and everything. Those kind of sensors, because if they get the reflection back, that means there is no paper underneath, and basically, probably you will get a jam.
Interesting. So you can't turn off the lights?
No, you need a sensor. You need a sensor. Yeah, I know. I did a lot of things, but you need those sensors to start the segments, top position, and everything else. So yeah.
That's a really good point. That's a great point. So And me personally, some of the best work I've ever seen run on the jet varnish has been on some of that static cling type of material. I think what Ken you were saying earlier about drop control, I've never gotten as crisp of a line or as detailed as a line as when running on some of those materials, specifically static cling, with the right backer. Obviously, it's absolutely bananas, the quality that you can get, and the adhesion was off the charts too. Like you could scratch all day long, nothing was coming off. So I think that's some of the favorite stuff that I've run in the past. And what was really cool is we did one for I think the University of Wisconsin. We had like the Badger. You might have seen those samples, Sean, in the CAM showroom, but we ran this like 5 years ago. And I literally had it in my window for like 3 years, facing the Florida sun every single day. And what's really cool about foil is that you don't get any color loss, meaning that the color was exactly the same 4 years later, every single day in the Florida sun, than it was on the first day that I put it out there. So it's something that I thought was kind of interesting and potentially a great application.
Yeah, and as an operator, you're talking about double good, right? You got a nice hard substrate with good standout, and then they're typically prepping it for all the printing devices with a coating of some kind. So you're ending up almost like the perfect laminate, right?
Oh, that's the best way to describe it. It's like printing on top of the perfect laminate. Yeah, yeah.
I think from my perspective, and sort of you said any final thoughts there. The advantage, and we talked about this kind of in a circular way in the call here today. There's so many different types of stocks out there that are label-esque materials. So many different things that have a liner sheet with an adhesive, different types of adhesive, as Ken mentioned, your permanents, your semi-permanents, your removables, different face stocks are going to affect. So the upside to that situation is lots of opportunity, lots of options. Almost with a high degree of certainty, you could say there is a material out there that fits the need, right? That's already made, that's already out there, and it's going to be compatible with our technology. The key thing we've talked about is to just test, right? Just don't make sure that you in all these major paper providers are more than happy to try and give you a couple sample sheets to put on the device to make sure it's going to work for you ahead of time. You don't really need to have the right content yet. You don't really need to have the whole job estimator put together yet. You just want to validate that material type so that you can start to build that into your embellishment as a label business, and then you're going to come up with your core set. You're going to have, we said, a synthetic, and then you're going to have a paper. You're going to have your core set that you can offer, and just test those materials first, for sure.
Yeah, to add to what Sean said, it annoys me when I go into a shop and I hear that they haven't run their machine in 2 or 3 days, because they should be talking to every sales rep, paper sales rep that comes through. Every time he sees him, he should be asking him for something, whether it's the latest specialty stock, the newest label, whatever it is. And during those 2 days of downtime, you had better be producing something and testing something, because you as an operator, you might find something that nobody else has thought of, and it ends up the combination that just blows your sales staff out of the water, and you don't end up with any more idle days because you created something awesome. So please continue to test, like Sean said, and harass those sales reps. They'll give you samples. They will give you everything. If you buy their paper, they love to send you stuff, and they love it so much that they send it next day, even though they don't need to. Like, that's how important that they know it is too. So don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, but to your point, like what better way to bring on, say, window clinks, like Kevin was mentioning, smaller window clinks, than to get some sample sheets for your own marketing, right? And then put it in your own windows if you have a brick and mortar storefront, and see how it performs. And then you validate the material. Maybe that one doesn't work, but a different brand will, right? Because of those nuance between liner and adhesive and all that. So it's a great way to get some run cycles on the machine, for sure, so it stays active every day, and make sure that you can help validate those solutions before they roll out to market.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, listen, we're coming up on time. Do we have any other questions from our friends from Malaysia, or from France, or from New Hampshire, or from Croatia, or from Arizona? It's all over the world is on the call. Any other questions that we wanted to cover today?
I do think, Kevin, that we should probably plan a call for some of the in the field technical guys in the factory. I want to hear these guys debate.
Yeah.
Marco and Paul started getting into it a little bit, and it was fantastic. I would love to hear that brain trust going back and forth.
Yeah, for sure. And Marco, again, we thank you for your countless support to the JetForce community and always bringing that good technical knowledge to the operators. We really appreciate your help over the past couple of years, and thank you all for coming. Next month, we're going to be announcing the dates here at the beginning of the month. We are going to be tackling, and this is straight from Matt Redbear requested that this be the theme for next month is tactile textures and finishes. So next month is all about using that tactile finishing and the tactile textures and how to make the most of those. So that's going to be the theme. So think of good questions, some good show and tells if you want to bring anything to next month's operator meetup. And in the meantime, we'll be making this available, this recording. We'll make an article out of this discussion because I thought it was a fantastic discussion. And it will all be posted on the jetforce.com for you guys to take a look at and share internally with your customers or with your colleagues. That being said, I wanted to thank Ken Huizenga for being such a spectacular host, always so educated on so many different production subjects. We thank you, my friend, and we will see everybody next month. Thanks again. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Bye, people.
Bye.